Breaking news from the Middle East. There are reports as we come on the air that Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has been killed in today's joint attack by the U.S. and Israel. This according to a senior Israeli official and a major Israeli broadcaster reporting Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been shown a photo of Khamenei's body. Khamenei has been the leader of Iran since 1989. This would be big news if, in fact, true. He's the longest-serving autocrat in the Middle East. The 86-year-old previously served as Iran's president, and he has controlled Iran's foreign and military policy, including its nuclear program, for decades. So let's get to Face the Nation moderator Margaret Brennan, who's been following this for us as well. Margaret, what do we know at this hour?
Well, Tony, I can tell you what my sources and our CBS reporting is at this hour. And a senior Israeli official told me that based on the bomb damage assessment seen at this point, the supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is presumed to be dead. That is as precise as the Israeli government is getting at this point in the confirmation they are sharing within their own government. Outside their government, within the political party of Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, our reporters in Israel is hearing that members of the political party he belongs to are also being informed that Khamenei is dead. So you don't yet have official confirmation in terms of, for example, something as hard as a DNA sample, something that the U.S. government often waits for. But you have, based on a bomb damage assessment, a bomb damage from that explosion on the compound where he was believed to be earlier today. That is what the Israeli government is signaling. And you had earlier today an oblique reference made by the prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, in a speech where he said it looked like the signs are that the Ayatollah is no more. So that is what we know at this hour. Significant that the 86-year-old supreme leader, riddled with cancer, but very much the institution of the Iranian regime himself, is presumed to be dead at this hour in this surprise attack launched by the U.S. and Israel, which is swiftly looking like it may become a regional war.
Margaret, as you're speaking there, we were looking at pictures of the palace where the Ayatollah is thought to have been, smoke coming out of the top of it. If this reporting turns out to be true, and it certainly appears to be so at this hour, what would it mean for the future of this conflict? What might it mean for the future of Iran?
Well, that compound is believed to be where he was. I had U.S. officials earlier today saying to me, now, why would he be in such an obvious place when tensions are so high? So there are still some who want harder confirmation of the death. But if what the Israeli government is saying is accurate, what we know is that he is very much the regime. The Ayatollah embodies the ideological backbone, the religious cleric, the basis of the regime, and he is the embodiment of that, and very much amplifies this idea that they are about resistance to the United States, resistance to the state of Israel. As I mentioned, he's been sick with cancer for years. At 86 years old, though, he still very much firmly had control. What we know now is that succession plans will be turned to here. I've spoken to many analysts in recent days and asked that question, what comes next? Because we knew he would be a target. And the presumption here is that you will also have an ideologue step up. You may not have a pragmatist take his place. So you can't necessarily say this is going to be a better outcome than where we were. But just coming back, Tony, to what we heard from the President of the United States overnight, this is not a targeted operation that is limited to this killing. The president described a sustained military operation, and he called for regime change by saying the people of Iran need to rise up. So this may be a very significant symbolic and operational blow, but it is not the end of the operation, at least as described by President Trump. Yeah, the president saying today, when we are finished, that was part of the quote, the Iranian people take control of your government. This would be a major milestone in that process. The reports today, as we come on the air, that Iran's supreme leader has been killed in these joint U.S.-Israeli strikes.
Yeah, Sandra, we just got this in literally 2 minutes ago, but Fox News can confirm that Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead following Israeli strikes against his compound and location earlier today. a senior Israeli official confirming this news. Earlier tonight, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu describing the strikes not only against the supreme leader, but against much of the Iranian leadership. We know the breakdown in strikes focused on leadership for the Israelis and military targets initially for the Americans, and has since expanded as this campaign is expected to continue in the days and possibly even weeks ahead. As we're looking at the current situation across the region, we're also gathering new information on what the Israelis have been doing against Iran. We are told from a military official that the largest Israeli Air Force sortie against any country in the world was conducted this morning with 200 Israeli fighter jets targeting 500 different locations, dropping hundreds of munitions on a variety of different targets inside of Iran. The Israelis, while they were going after leadership, were also looking to neutralize the incoming ballistic missile fire that has targeted their country throughout the day. Sirens sounded across Israel throughout the afternoon, sending millions of people into bomb shelters. But again, the takeaway here, the Israelis have killed Iran's supreme leader. That is being confirmed to Fox News by a senior Israeli official. John, Sandra?
Okay, so Trey, you're obviously breaking that news for us just now. We'll be looking for reaction, obviously, on the ground in Iran and all over the Middle East region.
Absolutely. This is a major blow to the Iranian regime. Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah KHAMENEI, was not a figurehead. He was the man in charge of decisions as it relates to Iran's nuclear program, their expanding ballistic missile program, the hardline positions that made it impossible for the Americans to reach a diplomatic solution with the Iranians. And that led to a variety of conversations behind the scenes. And I can also report, having just gotten off of a background call with a U.S. official, that there were attempts made by the Trump administration, really olive branches given to the Iranians at the negotiating table, asking them to find a solution on the nuclear issue. These other issues, their ballistic missile program, their support of regional proxies, and even the crackdown on protesters, the Trump administration initially was willing to ignore those issues in order to get an agreement together on the nuclear program. And they simply were not willing to come to the table with reasonable demands. And despite the efforts by top negotiators that were sent to Oman and to Switzerland, whether it be Special Envoy Steve Witkoff or President Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, who we know have been working across the region around the clock over the past year, not just on this issue, but also to get a ceasefire in Gaza and implement the new Board of Peace to create stability in the region. The understanding was that the Iranian regime and the supreme leader himself, these were the last hurdles for the region between stability and instability. And this decision was made overnight by President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to launch these extensive strikes across Iran in order to neutralize that threat. President Trump overnight, when he made those remarks, said there could be American casualties. This is going to be a difficult fight because no war is easy, despite the fact that by tomorrow the Israelis believe they will have air superiority over the skies of Iran. But we have seen the Iranian response today, not just here in Israel, with the ballistic missile fire targeting major population centers, including Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, and Haifa, but also Gulf countries, Bahrain, the UAE, and Qatar. A regional diplomat telling Fox News this evening that 8 people were injured in Qatar during one of the attacks. One of them is in critical condition. And so there are serious consequences to this counterattack by Iran. But again, tonight, the news that is breaking across the region, Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah Khamenei, according to a senior Israeli official, has been killed.
So, Trey, if that report from the senior Israeli official is correct, the big question is what comes next. The Ayatollah was 86 years old. I imagine that in the theocracy of Iran, they have got clerics lined up to take that position in the same way that they have planes lined up over Ben Gurion on the landing approach. So what does that mean for the future there in terms of the theocracy if that were to continue?
Israel is looking east right now to the threat from Iran, but they're also looking north and south. Iran's largest proxies are Hezbollah, the Lebanese militant group in southern Lebanon, and the Houthis in Yemen. Hezbollah, according to an intelligence official I spoke to recently, still has thousands of rockets and missiles, and around half of them are within range of Israeli cities. And this is a serious threat still posed to Israel, despite the fact that the Israelis have degraded and destroyed much of the Hezbollah arsenal, it still poses a threat to Israel. You might remember, as we reported throughout the past 2.5 years, the Israelis decapitated the head of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, with a strike in the Dahya neighborhood of southern Beirut. They went after the missile launching positions we saw on the ground there in southern Lebanon as the Israelis meticulously moved field by field and cave by cave to go after these positions that had been dug into the sides of mountains. But despite those efforts, this is an organization that had decades of support from the Iranian regime, and they were able to smuggle in missiles and rocket components that now make up what is left of that arsenal. And while it is a smaller arsenal than before, it is a threat. And Hezbollah in the past, just the past several days, has said that if Iran's supreme leader was targeted, they would get directly involved in this war. And so that is where Israel is focused right now. As it relates to the situation on the ground in Iran, we do have to step back amid all of this military action and these serious decisions that were made by President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. There is still an understanding about how the structure of the Iranian regime operates. Iran's supreme leader reportedly had already prepared successors. Iran's IRGC had already prepared successors for the top commanders of their military, understanding that if a war erupted, these would be the individuals targeted in such a conflict. And so this isn't over. This is actually just beginning. But it does raise questions about the future of the region and where things are headed once this does conclude.
Also crossing right now, a source familiar to Fox News is saying some Gulf partners are responding to Iran defensively and offensively. Trey, since the last time you joined us, top of the last hour, we got word that President Trump had sat down for this several-minute interview with Axios, in which he said he believes he has several off-ramps from Operation Epic Fury, talking about how long this could take. It could end in 2 or 3 days, said the president. He could tell the Iranians, see you again in a few years if you start rebuilding your nuclear and missile programs. This was about a 5-minute interview that the president conducted, but suggesting there could still be a diplomatic solution or opportunity, Trey.
Absolutely. This is the Peace Through Strength initiative that the president ran on when he was running for his second term. And when you look at the region, there are players in the region, including the Iranians, that often only understand strength. And that is a fact in the Middle East. And it's the reason that the Israelis have approached the conflicts that they are involved in the way that they have. As it relates to Iran and the possibility of a diplomatic off-ramp, if this does continue for a number of days and the regime is weakened, we have already heard in interviews that took place today from other outlets with Iran's foreign minister, who indicated at least a small interest in a diplomatic path, understanding that at the end of this, the Iranian regime had one major factor, one lever to pull, and that was their ballistic missile program. Now, while they still will fire ballistic missiles, likely in the days ahead, when they have no nuclear weapon, they have a limited supply of missile launchers, and their regional proxies have been decimated over the past 2.5 years, it raises a very significant question. What does Iran have left to fight with if this is an extended campaign that lasts for several days or several weeks? They certainly do pose a threat. They have anti-ship missiles. They have ballistic missiles. But their ability that they had, and really we should look at October of 2023, the ability that they had before the war began with Hamas launching the brutal massacre into southern Israel on the morning of October 7th. When you think back 2.5 years ago, this is a totally different Iranian regime. It is a weakened regime. It is a regime that cracked down on protesters, slaughtering, according to President Trump, 32,000 of their own civilians. That's behavior from a regime that is cornered, understanding that they have very limited options of how to respond. And so the days ahead will be quite interesting to see how the Israelis and the Americans move forward with strikes against Iran. But certainly in these situations, we have often seen temporary ceasefires when conflict erupts in order to get some sort of deal together. And just one concluding point here that I want to note. Back during the 12-day war in June of 2025, as we reported here on the ground amid heavy incoming ballistic missile fire, that war was unfolding with casualties here in Israel, more than 24 people killed. The Israelis launching a series of strikes across Iran, trying to take out those air defense systems. But it was when President Trump ordered Operation Midnight Hammer that the Iranians suddenly responded just once against a base in Qatar, the Al Udeid base, and then in a way backed off. And it was President Trump, one man, who was able to decide the outcome of what comes next. And I remember a moment here on the ground. Israeli fighter jets were in the skies on their way to continue with the bombing campaign against Iran, and President Trump got on the phone and called off the strikes. So when the president feels that there's an opportunity for a deal, there are options and off-ramps to be taken.
All right. Trey, confirming right here per senior Israeli officials that the supreme leader is gone. Trey, thank you very much. We'll get another update from you shortly.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
Breaking news right now, Donald Trump has all but confirmed the death of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. Speaking with NBC News, he was asked about the Israeli reports that Khamenei is dead. The president of the United States says, quote, "We feel that is a correct story." Donald Trump went on to tell Kristen Walker that a large amount of leadership in Iran was killed in today's strikes. He said, quote, "I don't mean like 2 people. He didn't specify the number of people that were killed. We do know from a prior Reuters report that Iran's defense minister was also killed as well. When asked what happens next, who will replace Khamenei, he said, quote, "I don't know, but at some point they'll be calling me to ask who I'd like," and then said, "I'm only being a little sarcastic when I say that." Meanwhile, while we're getting word and essentially confirmation of the Ayatollah's death, Iran has launched more missiles at Israel, and at least one ballistic missile has impacted Tel Aviv this afternoon. I'll have more updates for you very soon. Spread the word and follow along to stay up to date on all the news that you need to know about. There'll be more to come.
Breaking news, everyone. It was just confirmed that Ayatollah Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader, is now dead. Yes, the strikes against Iran were successful in eliminating this dictator, this terrorist of Iran. So let's pray for regime change, positive regime change in the Middle East, positive regime change in Iran, and peace in the Middle East. So God bless. Christ is Lord.
Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, has been killed. That is what Reuters is confirming at this time after speaking to Israeli official command. In it, there is one caveat. Iran is saying that this is mental warfare and that this is not true. In a statement, Iran's supreme leader's office said, quote, "The enemy is resorting to mental warfare. All should be aware." But according to Fox News, they said that senior defense officials tell them that the United States agrees with the Israeli assessment that Iran's supreme leader is dead. They also state that alongside with him were about 5 to 10 other top leaders in the military or the government who have also been eliminated. According to their intel, they were meeting at the compound earlier that morning when U.S. and Israeli forces did strike it. As we've shown you before, this is what the compound now looks like after it's been hit. Even if they were inside of bunkers, we're being told that they had used certain kind of weapons to strike said facility. We are still waiting on confirmation from President Trump, in which we assume that he would be the one who makes the major announcement. For now, that is all we know. I'll be sure to keep you updated on this, so please do share this video and follow me for more.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you? I just wanted to let you know that we are all absolutely fucked. Because without congressional approval, not only did Donald Trump just go to war with Iran, which has sparked repercussions across the entire Middle East, but he assassinated the leader of that country. Now, Iran's government is absolutely horrible. They have committed tons of atrocities over the years that are too numerous to mention. But going in and assassinating their leader in the middle of the night is not what Donald Trump had in mind. I guarantee he wanted regime change and he wanted somebody more friendly, but he did not plan on assassinating their leader in the middle of the night. This is going to not only lead to Iran coming at us with absolutely everything they have, this now has governments around the world talking about cutting us off. And at the very bare fucking minimum, he needs to be impeached right fucking now. Presidents have always taken liberties in the past of attacking installations or places that might be dangerous to our national security. That's not what this was. This isn't even comparable to the already illegal move of kidnapping a leader of another country to charge him with crimes. This is the Iranian government confirming that their leader was assassinated by our government in the middle of the night. Again, the Iranian government now has absolutely nothing to lose. And those threats that they made to Donald Trump's life months ago are now going to be jacked up on fucking steroids.